I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our meeting this evening. Just for your notice, behind you is an exit, and off to your right here as well. What I'd like to do before we begin tonight's meeting is take a moment. One of our former employees and supervisors, Mr. Walter Reynolds, had passed, and I'd like a moment of silence if we could, please. Thank you. Walt Reynolds was a longtime Village of Monroe DPW superintendent and been around for many, many years. So we wish his family our condolences. First order of business is the continuation of a public hearing introducing local law of 2024, the Village of Monroe Environmentally Constrained Lands Law. I need a motion to open that continuation.
Carl will make that motion.
Second.
O'Connor will second.
Call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, aye. Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Thank you. The hearing is open. Anyone wishing to speak upon the local law before us this evening on the constrained lands is welcome to come forward.
Mr. Mayor, is this a continuation or is this the public hearing? It's a, okay, so if I may, I'd like to address the board on what we would have been discussing perhaps later. But since this is a public hearing, I'd like to put this discussion on the record. And then afterwards, perhaps we could close the public hearing and adopt the local law tonight, if you wish.
Please.
Okay. All right, so as you know, the board received comments from the planning board. I'd like to go over those comments, some of which I would suggest that they be included in the local law as the planning board suggests. Others, no. So the first thing that the planning board suggested, and which I agree with, it's just let me, get to it, is to clarify 200-20.1 A-B. What it says now is that 100% lands underwater and lands covered by natural or constructed water bodies, including without limitation, retention and detention basins, as being deducted from, density count. The planning board suggested existing retention and detention basins, and I agree with that proposed modification. And the point the planning board suggested is that the planning board recommends that this be clarified, i.e. the deduction of detention basins. We envision a scenario where an area is free from environmental constraints prior to development, but would then be developed into but then there would be, as part of development, detention basins included as part of the project. And in such a situation, such land should not be deducted from the developable area. So my idea there, I think what they're saying is, it goes to the planning board, density is calculated. If there's any re-subdivision of that land and there have been detention basins inserted into the project, then you would go back, that wouldn't be counted towards constrained lands.
That's confusing to me. So for instance, we have a subdivision up at the top of Rye Hill Road, and there's probably 7 detention basins that should certainly be calculated as to the unusable. When I say calculated, I mean that are not part of the yield of what the balance of the property would yield.
Right, okay.
This suggests that in fact it would be. part of the
That-
yield. So in other words,
You
if-
would count all of this suggests that you would count all of that further development of that property, those detention basins would not be deducted from the yield calculation because they were man-made and they were man-made.
right, so say a property without any improvements is 20 acres.
Uh-huh.
And say the design of the project requires that 3 acres of detention ponds be installed, let's just say. So would the yield now be based on 17, but according to this, it would be based on 20?
It would be based, if it's not been developed,
Okay.
and it's before the planning board, and they're determining yield, and those detention basins do not exist, okay, it would not be, you would not use the proposed detention basins. It is confusing. You would not deduct proposed retention basins from the yield calculation. Only if there are existing detention basins on a project that's been approved and built.
Well, my problem is that those retentions that already been built were for whatever was built at the time.
Right.
You're gonna add to that, don't you need more retention ponds, because there's more of the land has been cleared?
So if the original calculation, not including, there are no retention basins on the land, right? You do a yield calculation. You deduct everything, right? You deduct steep slopes, you deduct wetlands, you deduct like lakes, for example, that might be on the property. You would deduct 50% of steep slopes, okay? You would deduct floodplain, and you would deduct 50% of any easements, right? So you would deduct all of that, but there shouldn't be on undeveloped land retention basins, correct?
No, I understand that. I think, I'm not answering, if I answer Andy's question, if I will be able to, but I think what this now says under the exclusions or whatever the A, B, and C refer to, it's saying that you will not use 100% of a wetland. So if there's a designated wetland, which would come onto a site plan,
Right,
let's just say it's an acre and a half of designated,
that would be deducted
that would be deducted.
from the yield calculation
That's what I'm
as
saying, not included, but deducted.
deducted.
Right. So if a parcel is, and let's just say for argument's sake, so we have our transmission line up at the reservoir. Now, that has a huge wetland area. And when that was delineated by the engineer, it turned out to, let's just say, be 14 acres of a 100-acre parcel.
Okay,
That would mean that what would be working on the calculation for the yields purposes, for design, would be 86 acres.
that's correct.
Yeah, all right, now,
Okay,
I don't know if that answered your
okay,
question.
so
Well, no, but
also, right,
It's just that after part of it has been developed,
Right,
you don't put in those, and retention ponds were created
right,
for that part that was developed.
that's right.
Well, now, the rest of it is gonna start being developed
In the same subdivision, you
in the
think?
same subdivision,
It
it's what
would-
she's saying.
Right, it would have been designed
It would-
before.
Primary, okay.
right. So let's say, I'm trying to think of when this might, according to the planning board, they're concerned that,
This does exempt a couple of properties, correct, that have been approved
well,
by
we'll
the
get
planning
there. We'll
board?
get to that.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
we'll
right,
get to that.
okay.
Um, Okay, so, actually, if there is, okay, so this has to, their recommendation can only be applied if part of the property has been developed. And and that development calls for a retention basin, right? So now the rest of the property to be developed, would not deduct the existing detention basin on the property because it's manned.
But assuming what he just said, they've already taken into consideration when they created those retention ponds for the entire project. And if
Right.
they didn't, then you can't.
But there might be a situation where there's, say, a site plan, right? And the site plan, because part of this also is citing of development, right? So you shouldn't cite the development in a particular area because of constraints. So, as I'm trying to explain this to you, I don't think I understand it either. It doesn't really make sense.
No.
But then detention basins, the original language of detention basins and retention and detention basins doesn't make sense either.
Yeah, because let's just say,
Yeah.
let's go back a second.
Because they wouldn't be there when
Right.
you're calculating density.
Right.
Right, but more importantly, you got a 20-acre parcel,
Right.
17 acres is wetlands.
Mhm.
That leaves 3 of buildable area to calculate from. If you
Mhm.
calculated those wetlands into this, right,
Mhm.
then you're allowing the density on the 3 acres that are left to be a
Mhm.
lot greater because you have engrossed 20 acres to calculate from.
Okay, for density, but this also deducts then for calculation of lot area, lot coverage, or floor area ratio. And I think that's the point that must have stuck in the planning board's craw, so to speak. It's not just density, this is lot area and avoidance of constrained areas during construction. So that throws a little bit of a different light on it. Okay, so the problem here is that 20-20.1A, sub A, B, and C, D and E, I understand it might make sense if it's only about lot area and it's only about lot coverage or floor area, because someone shouldn't be penalized for, calculating total lot area or lot coverage or floor area because they put in a detention basin. So I think that's where the planning board is coming from, now that I look at this again and again, is for those things. However, then when you get to 220-20.1 C, right?
Capital C.
Capital C, it
Right.
says, "The net lot area, after exclusion of the area set forth in A, shall be calculated, and any permissible residential density or non-residential intensity of land shall be calculated on the net." So that's where you get to density.
Well, agreed. So again, going back to my point,
Yeah,
if the net is the result of what is not buildable, and you've got 3 acres of wetlands or areas that are denoted based on slope or whatever, then your calculable totals are based on what is developable at 17 acres. And then the density based on their zone and FAR and all those other pieces are the net. So I just want to be sure that we're all recognizing that and not thinking that they're going to be used. Whether it's an existing, like we have the subdivision up there and there's like 7 detention ponds. And I tell you, they got to be every bit of,
They're deep.
they're deep and they're big. They got to be 10 acres. And I think, however you want to Andy's point about if that was existing and they wanted to do something in those in addition to, I would think that that has to be taken out. So if that subdivision is 300 acres and you got 10, you're not basing it on 300, you're basing it on 290. And then roads and everything else.
But that subdivision, the one you're speaking of, is already an approved subdivision.
It is.
Right, so
But
that.
Andy was saying if
So
something was
that's,
like that one,
you know, that's a mute thing. One of the things is, how often does FEMA come in and actually redefine the flood boundaries? And that does happen from time to time. I just don't know how often they do it. But, you know.
I know we have to report every year.
Right. If we had an applicant come in and he's proposing to do something, he gets before the planning board, and all of a sudden, the Federal Emergency Management comes in, and all of a sudden, the flood hazard boundaries on that gentleman's property have changed at that point. Where does that put him? And maybe he's already got his approvals, but hasn't built yet. And now the flood boundaries get changed.
Well, one of the other suggestions that they make, again, is that that where seeker has been complete, if there's an application before the planning board, seeker is complete, meaning there's been a negative declaration by the planning board, or it's a type 2 action, right? And they've received final planning board approval that those should be exempted.
Okay.
Okay, and as for subdivisions, subdivisions that have been filed with the county are exempt from changes for 3 years after they've been filed. So if you have a subdivision that's been not only approved by the planning board, but filed with the county, you know, that subdivision is protected from zoning changes for 3 years, from the date of the adoption of the local law.
And then what happens after 3 years?
Then they're not. So,
So it has to be built in 3 years, within that time frame.
well, it has to be started.
Yeah.
They, you know, they're gonna have some vested rights, but it has to be, you know, started. And they have to file a subdivision plat, and they have to begin work. 3 years, 3 years.
So there's also here in G, that refers to a wetland delineation and jurisdictional determination may be required, period. Again, that goes back into what Trustee Carl just said. If somebody has the land and has the design and has the approvals, but hasn't built upon or built any improvements, G, depending on the code enforcement officer, may require this to be done, because they're even talking about an up-to-date survey. They're talking about 2-foot topo contours. So there are, I think they're saying, at least I like to think they're saying the same thing, but I don't know how anybody could reach and say that they're not, or they are excluded from the yield, or included in the yield, using the wetlands and other areas. I don't think that's what this is saying.
You know, maybe at this point, what we should do is have a quick workshop with the planning board to discuss this, because they clearly have concerns.
Okay.
You know, I can understand why they want existing put in A, okay, but it shouldn't be in C. There's a distinction there. So, I also understand why they are suggesting that if it has planning board approval, and seeker's finished, then it should be excluded. They also suggested referencing Village Law 7-709, which is that subdivision protection. I don't think that needs to be in there, because it's already protected. All it is parroting state law. The protection already exists under state law. So they did make a suggestion to clarify for zoning board of appeals. That's no problem, because the law as it reads now says that you require an area variance if it's over a certain percentage, and they're just saying from the zoning board of appeals. I mean, that's,
Okay.
I
So-
don't think it's necessary, but it doesn't hurt anything.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna table this, or we're gonna actually make a motion to adjourn the public hearing. And then what we'll do is we'll set up a meeting with the clerk and the planning board members, with the attorney,
Yeah, I think a workshop,
okay?
either, certainly two members from this board, two members from the planning board, the attorneys, might be a good idea to quickly do a review of this.
Yeah.
Just so, we understand, why. I mean, I did talk to the planning board attorney. I thought I understood this exception here for retention and detention basins. I do understand why it should be an A, but how does it affect C?
Okay,
Okay, so, yeah, I think that's probably a very good idea at this point, just to
Clarity.
adjourn the public hearing and,
okay,
and have that quick meeting. Even a Zoom call would be fine.
right. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn on the public hearing.
Carl will make that motion.
Berenger will second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. All right, next order of business is the public hearing introducing local law, not introducing, but the introductory local law 2024 amendment to Chapter 150 Parks. A public hearing is being held this evening, February 6, 2024, in the boardroom of the Village of Hall, 7 Stage Road, Monroe, New York, at 7 p.m. to review a proposed local law entitled Amendment to Chapter 150 Parks. The Village Board of Trustees finds and determines that Chapter 150 of the Village Code, which regulates parks, should be updated from time to time, including incorporating certain restrictions applicable to Smith's Clove Park and to all village parks. We just add that, just put "and to all." See that there? And to all. Okay. So I need a motion to open up the public hearing.
Ferraro, make the motion.
Carl's second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Okay, anyone wishing to speak upon the parks here in the Village of Monroe and this particular local law, which is actually an update to a current law, is welcome to come forward. We have in the Village of Monroe, Smith's Clove Park, which is property the village owns, and we have Crane Park behind us, and down on 17M, we have Veterans Park. Those are the parks that we have here, here in the village. And these are the times that we're looking to update as far as the access to the parks lawfully.
I did circulate this local law to the attorney for the Park Commission for Smith's Clove, and I didn't receive any comments from him.
And that's okay. I mean, they have their rules and regulations down there, and they're doing their thing. I mean,
Yeah, but this local law it doesn't really modify it,
not them.
but did you,
It advises them that they do have their own.
yeah, do you have my marked up version? Because it's hard to follow what's actually being done to Chapter 150 unless you go through this, which I sent to you, this marked up version.
Mhm.
I think I read it.
Yeah.
I know it is.
Okay, I would really recommend that the board take a close look at this, because what I've done is I've modified and moved things around, okay? I haven't really, I've kept everything that Smith Clove Park Commission has, but I have moved things around. For example, if there was a prohibition only in the Smith Clove Park article that I felt was important for all village parks, like no
No
smoking,
smoking, you put in.
right, I just moved that and made it applicable to all parks, not just Smith Clove Park. So, and I did make the changes that you suggested on the definitions. Enforcement, which was in Smith Clove Park, I put in all, that the village police enforce this chapter, and the violations, 50, 150, 200, et cetera, I put in everything, right? So, I did make those changes.
And that you also allowed for exceptions based on what the board decides.
Yes, right, I mean, you know, if you issue a permit, right, that's fine. I specifically made sure that, like, 150-2 general provisions applicable to all the parks. If you look at B, first of all, I said, you know, you have to have permission from the village board to enter or remain upon a park from dusk to dawn, right? Unless special permission, you cannot be there from dusk to dawn. But then in B, I said the foregoing shall not apply to Smith's Clove Park, where the Park Commission has established regular operating hours or has granted special permission, or when the Park Commission has established different opening and closing times for specific designate. Okay, so I said this applies to all parks unless Smith Clove Park's Park Commission has a different rule.
And of course they do.
And they do, and that's
For
fine.
evenings, they have to turn on the lights. and
Right.
Right.
Right,
And we have 4th of July where everything's going on at night.
right,
Yeah.
but you
So
grant
people are in the
permission to
parks,
do
sure.
that, exactly. I did take out Crane Park Peninsula because I included that in the definition of parks. Village Park, Ford Daily Airplane Park, Crane Park, AKA Mill Pond Park, including the 9/11 Memorial Park and Crane Park Peninsula and Smith's Clove Park. Okay, so if you've looked at this and you've looked at the local law, then I think that's fine.
Okay. Trustee O'Connor, you
No,
good? Trustee Carl?
I'm fine.
I'm good.
Okay. If no one is here from the public to wishes to speak upon this, let's get a motion to close the public hearing.
Carl will make that motion.
O'Connor will second.
Okay. Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carlin.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Next order of business is a due process hearing of 2/6/2024, 7 PM. Code violations against the Village of Monroe property within Elm Street, location of SBL 207-2-9. A public hearing is being held this evening at February 6, 2024, at 7 PM in the boardroom of the Village of Monroe, 7 Stage Road, Monroe, New York. The hearing is held to review the violation issued by the Village of Monroe Building Department of the following property within the Village of Monroe: Elm Street, 207-2-9 of the Village Code, Section 155A-6E of General Requirements. All land must be kept free of dead or dying trees and accumulations of brush, shrubs, weeds, grass, stumps, roots, excessive and/or noxious growths, garbage, refuse, and debris, which would either tend to start a fire or increase the intensity of a fire already started or cause poisoning or irritation to people or animals, or cause or tend to cause or enhance an unhealthy or dangerous or obnoxious condition on said property and any adjacent or neighboring property. The specific violation is garbage and debris throughout the parking lot. Just for the record, is anyone here to represent this property on Elm Street? Okay, just for the record, no one is here for that property.
Mayor, do we know if they received the certified letter
Oh, sure.
it was signed for, and
That goes to the code enforcement officer, but he wouldn't have given it to me if he did not get everything back or we didn't have the time frame covered. Because they give them, like, on the violation, if you read the violation, gives them a date that they can come and show up here for hearing.
Do we want the code enforcement officer down here?
no, I'm just asking
No,
the
I'm
question.
asking to
That's-
have him here if you
no,
want him.
No, I mean,
Okay.
because I know there's been issues, I guess, with stuff going out, coming back.
Well, that's what happens, the property owners,
This is
you
a
know,
fairly large corporation here, so I
Yeah.
would think that somebody must have signed for it, but I'm just asking the question, that's all.
yep. Okay. I need a motion to close the due process hearing on this property.
Berenger
O'Connor will
will
make the motion.
Berenger will second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carly?
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Excuse me.
Well, though somebody did sign, you guys all have the same copy I have.
Yep.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, there it is.
There it is, thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.
I just want to clarify that.
Okay, next order of business is a
You might
due,
put those in the minutes, by the way. You might just put, you might put that in the
No
minutes.
violation.
Well, the return receipts.
okay. Next order of business, a second due process hearing on 2024, code violations against the Village of Monroe property known as 145 North Main Street, SBL of 207-2-1. Want to check one thing. Okay. A due process hearing is being held this evening on Tuesday, February 6, 2024, at 7 p.m. in the boardroom of the Village of Monroe, 7 Stage Road, Monroe, New York. The hearing is being held to review the violation issued by the Village of Monroe Building Department on the following property within the Village of Monroe: 145 North Main Street, tax map 207-2-1, as per Village Code Section 155A-6E, general requirements. All land must be kept free of dead or dying and accumulation of brush, shrubs, weeds, grass, stumps, roots, excessive and/or noxious growth, garbage, refuge, or debris that would either tend to start a fire or increase the intensity of a fire already started, or cause poisoning or irritation to people or animals, or tend to cause or enhance an unhealthy or dangerous or obnoxious condition on said property or an adjacent or neighboring property. The specific violation is garbage and debris throughout the Elm Street side of the property. I need a motion to open up this due process hearing.
Berenger will make the motion.
Ferraro, second.
Call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carly?
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Anyone wishing to speak upon the property known as 145 North Main Street that is here this evening? You're welcome to come forward.
I assume they're both owned by the same, this one and the Elm Street one.
I believe so. Yes. Okay, if no one is here, on behalf of that property owner, I need a motion to close the due process hearing on that property.
Carl will make that motion.
O'Connor will second.
Call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Next order of business I'd like to do is just take a roll call for the meeting minutes. Trustee Berenger,
Berenger's present.
trustee Farrar,
Ferraro's present.
trustee Carl,
Carl present.
trustee O'Connor.
O'Connor, present.
Mayor Dwyer is here, thank you very much. First order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes of January 16th as submitted by the village clerk. I need a motion to accept as submitted.
Carl will make the motion.
Second,
Berenger will second.
discussion, call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Okay, next order of business, trustee O'Connor, the appointment of part-time secretary to zoning board of appeals.
Resolve, the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of Mayor Dwyer and ZBA Chairman Paul Baum and appoints Claire Dofer? Dufer.
Doer.
435 Bremerton Road, Tuxedo, New York, to the part-time position of part-time secretary to the Zoning Board of Appeals, effective January 19, 2024, at a salary of $500 a month. And I'd like to put that in the form of a motion.
Carl will second that.
Discussion? Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Welcome.
Claire, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you. Next order of business is the completion of probation for DPW labor, Will DeAngelis, trustee Carl.
Stand by one here. Let me get it on. Resolve the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of Mayor Dwyer, no, 3A, that's not it.
Oh,
Re-
that should be.
3B.
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 Good
Resolve,
night, Claire.
Good night.
Good night.
resolve the following DPW labor hereby completes his probationary period. William DeAngelis, DPW labor, effective August 1st, 2023. The necessary MSD 426B will be submitted to the Orange County Department of Human Resources, and I will put that in a form of a motion to accept that.
Can I get a second, please?
O'Connor will second.
Okay, so trustee Carl and trustee O'Connor. Any discussion? Call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Next order of business is the promotion of automotive mechanic, DPW, William DeAngelis. Trustee Carl.
Yeah, resolve the board approve the recommendation of working leader Aldo Chiapetta and appoints William DeAngelis to the full-time position of automotive mechanic. Mr. DeAngelis currently holds the position of laborer and has been pre-approved to move into this position by the Orange County Department of Human Resources. Effective date of classification change is February 7th, 2024, at the rate of pay of $40.10 per hour as per the IBEW contract. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Can I get a second?
Berenger will second.
Discussion? Call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Thank you. Next order of business, trustee Carl, authorization, final payment, 4th Street. Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah, I do have something on that. Let me just reflect this for council. So, we've made all of, this project was initiated out of a grant that the board got with CDGB money, HUD money, to provide the water main replacement. It was a $375,000 award. Project total with additional work was $389,000, $388 and change, okay? There is a final payment of $15,617.63 due the contract. However, in part of the specifications and part of the bid documents was the requirement that the cut in the road to put the new main in, which was a 2-foot wide cut,
Mhm.
would then be overlaid when it was backfilled at a 4-foot overlay with a milling of that road, so that when the repair was made and materials were placed in and compacted, it would be a uniform repair and so forth. That work has not been done. Now, I know you approved the maintenance bond, but that's different than this.
Right.
This here, I want to be able to hold this, and I want to be able to tell the contractor, we're holding it until either, one of two things happen. You either come back and mill the road out and the crosses into the property owner's property, repairing the road adequately according to the spec that you bid on, or you forfeit that payment, and the village will take it. Now, the base contract is paid. This is in
Right.
excess of it.
And this is not money that came from the grant money?
No.
This is not, okay.
Yeah, but we're not gonna be able to do that for $15,000, are we?
I'd rather him do it,
No, I know, yeah.
yeah. But I don't wanna pay him.
No, I get
and
it.
I've got nothing.
We
But
need to
there's a
hold something
performance-
back until we need to hold something until he completes the work.
That's right. That's
And
how I
there-
feel about it. I
okay.
want the board to weigh in.
No, I get it.
He's actually reached out to me asking for the final payment. I know Kim has been working feverishly with the CDBG group, which I've spoken to today, and gave them a chill pill. And everybody, I think, is gonna be on the same page. But this fella needs to be advised that we won't.
Well, he wound up putting top coat in there instead of
7 inches.
binder.
Right.
Yeah,
Performance bond, correct?
No, it's not, well, there is a performance bond, yes. So there is a performance bond, yes. But there's the maintenance bond, which is what's left. The maintenance bond is a value that
Right, but
covers
the
the work.
maintenance bond is for a year
That's it,
and covering,
Right.
right.
everything, the whole
Yeah,
job.
so the money for the maintenance bond, you're gonna withhold anyway.
It's actually paper, it's not even a cash value, it's a bond. Somebody wrote it, his insurance wrote it.
Yeah, but you could call that, you could.
You can call
You could
that.
call that, if he doesn't
Doesn't do this. you
fulfill
can
his
call that.
obligation, you could call that, and that's gonna be a blemish against him. Next time he goes out for bonding, it's gonna cost him more money.
But it's also, getting it is always an issue when
You
you're
want to
going.
finish the project.
Yeah, you want
I
to get
just
it
want him to come
done.
back and finish it. I want him to understand that.
Well, my suggestion is then you withhold it. Go ahead and withhold it until he completes the job to your satisfaction. There's probably some type of language in the contract that says that,
I'm sure it does.
right? So you're just not going to sign off on the project and you're not going to pay him until he completes the project pursuant to the specifications.
Right.
But the 375, that was this CDG money, that's been covered and paid out
Yep.
to date.
Yep.
And then everything from that 375 on is
Is
overage.
that he would have charged us for the project.
Okay.
And it's
Yeah.
overage or it's change order?
It's a change order, it's an add order.
Okay, so it's a change order, it's an add-on that he did do that work correctly.
Do you have the original contract there by just miracle? Okay, so the total project, we'll do the math here. The total
No,
project.
no, I understand that.
No, what I mean to say is this.
Okay.
So he's at 388.
Uh-huh,
If you take out the grant,
uh-huh,
okay, that's only leaving you 13.
mm-hmm.
His project was not 375. The award, our grant was gonna cover that with some. So it wasn't in excess of. What made it in excess of was the ad work, I think was 29,000 for the services?
Yeah, because the problem was, and we didn't know it, was there was one service line going across from the main, going across the street, and then that one service line was branching into two service lines.
Right.
So now everybody has their own separate three-quarter-inch service
But
line.
nobody knew that, so he had to,
He felt, it was found in the field.
yeah, it was found, that so it was a field change,
Right.
Mhm.
okay, that the village approved,
We had to authorize.
and he did that field change
Yes.
correctly.
Yes,
Yes.
So, and this is the money, he wants it paid for that field change, just to simplify it. He wants paid for the field change, which he did, correctly. But the
at our
board-
request.
Well, that's fine, you approved it.
Right, yes.
So he could argue that, no, I did that work, you approved that work, this is the money for that work, it was a field change, you owe it to me. Your comeback would be, that may be true, but you did not complete the main project in a satisfactorily workmanlike manner according to the specifications. Therefore, the board is not happy, and we want you to modify that. And you know, and you think that's gonna cost, how much is that gonna cost him? Do you have any idea?
For him to go in there and mill that out and repave that?
Well, we were supposed to have a number. We were actually getting an independent number, and I don't think we've got that number.
It's roughly about 900 feet of road there, right? What,
Well,
900,000
we were
feet?
actually paying $8 a square foot for Ward to do the High Street. So how many feet is that, you think?
It's
Thirty by
just
30.
under 1,000.
Okay, so say 1,000 by 4 is 4,000. 4,000 times, was it 4 or 8? Well, it would be either 32 or $16,000, right?
Yes.
Just on the milling. And then the paving, it's probably a $70,000, $80,000 job. What's the maintenance bond? Do you have that with you? No, by chance?
I think that might be right on your,
It's probably not gonna cover that, though. I mean, arguably, that work would be covered, or should be covered
is
by
that
the
the bond he
maintenance
does
fund.
not, is that the maintenance bond?
Yeah. Good. Maybe, how do I get out of this? Oh, there it goes, okay. No, I don't know, I'm looking now.
Let me see if I've got it. Oh, you've got it? That's only $19,000.
There you go.
It's only $19,422.
So,
They'll give it to us.
Is that like, it should be 10, you know, is that's not even 10% of the,
right, so
Project.
what's happened here is,
and you had no retainage on this?
Well, there's no, he puts a maintenance bond up, that works.
Not really. I mean, there's retainage and then there's maintenance
Well,
bonds.
this
So
is
the
based
retain-
upon our engineers consulting us and telling us, yes, this is adequate.
Oh, okay.
I think it typically, I want to say, I could be wrong, but I want to say it's usually like a 5% number comes to my mind.
Is that 19,000?
You know, I haven't, has that road settled much? I haven't been down there.
No, it hasn't.
It's pretty, it's been holding up pretty tight?
So maintenance bond, okay, so retainage, this is my understanding of construction law, which is limited, okay? As you know, it's very limited, but in my experience, retainage is, we're gonna withhold, whatever, 5%, 10%. That we can go in and fix something if there's a problem, okay? Maintenance bond is, okay, if there's a problem a year later, then we have to go after the maintenance bond, whatever that is. So usually, I would think that you would have retainage, and you would have retainage until you finally approve the project, right? And then the maintenance bond would kick in. So have you approved the project?
Yes, I believe so. Let me,
Okay.
what made this different than other projects, it was CDBG related,
Uh-huh.
and this project had to, by law, close out December 31, by law. When HUD
And by
federal
close out, do you mean
completed and paid for.
completed, paid for, but approved?
Well, the board would have approved it, right? The board would have approved it when they made the final payment.
Well,
But we're in the ad work world.
yeah, I know that, but uh, for the grant, you've paid out, okay, this is probably a longer conversation, but the bottom line is, don't pay it and tell them you want it fixed. And then we'll go from there. Hopefully, we won't have to get construction attorneys involved, but if there's an issue, then my suggestion is that you speak with your, Coconos.
Here's where I'm going. So let's say in this document, in this contract, let's say this work has a value, and I don't know what it is, but there is a unit price in the bid.
Yeah,
And
okay,
I don't think you have the unit, okay, so we don't have the award.
right.
But in that, let's say there's milling,
Mhm.
and there's surface preparation, and there's binder, and there's top coat of asphalt.
Which I'm sure is, yeah,
Right, so let's say that's all 90 grand.
yeah, okay.
The retainage and the fee, and the maintenance bond doesn't occur for a third of that. So this gentleman, this firm was paid in advance to get the CDBG piece out of our, and completed.
Mhm.
So he's got more than the work yet to be completed is done. Is the work, is it paved? And yes, but not to the specifications of the contract. If you're bidding a contract and it includes that you're going to mill 4 foot wide, overlay the area of construction, and then cover the whole thing, well, then that's what you're delivering. If you're not delivering that, then there should be a credit. Say, listen, you're right, let me give you a credit. Neither was done.
Mhm.
So it's either we hold,
But because you were under the gun,
we gave it to him
use
in
the grant
advance.
monies, you gave
Use
it
in
to him.
advance.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, withhold the money, see if he does the work.
Okay. All right, so, insofar as this, we're going to decline to make the final payment. And are we gonna prepare a letter advising her that? With the calendar date and things like that?
Sure, if you want to work with me, I can prepare a letter.
Okay.
We'll see what happens, Neil.
Board okay with this?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
John?
yeah, no, yeah. Because I think his last day on the job, there was a little bit of resistance on his part. You know, he filled the ditches up because he couldn't get binder, because the plants were in full tilt because the cold weather was coming,
You get it?
and he filled it with top coat, which cost even more money than binder,
Right.
but
So
his,
he wouldn't have wanted to do that.
yeah, no, but the problem was, everybody was at the blacktop plant trying to get the roads paved with top coat, so that's all the material that was being made was top coat, and they had no binder. So he didn't want to leave the road dirt for the winter, so he came in,
Yeah.
he dug out 6 or 7 inches, and he put the state top in there in 2 separate lifts and rolled it in tight.
Okay.
But I mean, I haven't been down there in the last couple of weeks, so I don't know if the road's holding. If we don't have many sinkholes in there, we'll probably be in pretty good shape, but, you know, we still want that ditch
Overlaid.
overlaid.
All right, so,
Board's wish?
Yes.
That includes the laterals as well as the
As
main
well as that,
itself.
right.
do I have the contracts? Okay. Actually, I have a huge binders that John O'Rourke sent me. I probably have that, but I can't
So do we,
search
for the record,
those.
want to deny this, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna ask
Yeah,
right now.
John.
So we're gonna make a motion then to deny it?
You will
Deny the
simply
14?
table it,
Table it?
which means that it's not approved. You haven't authorized the payment.
Okay.
All right, Carl will make a motion that we table the payment request from Regal Utilities.
O'Connor will second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Next. We're gonna table the environmentally constrained law and
Yeah,
move
we're
right
gonna-
on to C, adoption of local law 2. It is local law 2?
Yes,
Yes. Of chapter 150 with the parks. Whereas the village board of the Village of Monroe duly noticed a public hearing being held this evening on February 6, 2024, and whereas the village board solicited public comment during said public hearing on February 6, 2024, and whereas the proposed local law amends chapter 150 parks, and now therefore be resolved that the above whereas paragraphs are incorporated herein by reference. The local law amendment to chapter 150 parks is attached, is adopted as local law 2 of 2024, the Village of Monroe on February 6, 2024. The village board hereby directs the clerk to take all steps to process and file the said local law. This resolution shall take effect immediately. I need a motion to adopt this local law of 2 of 2023, 2024?
24.
The resolution is effective immediately, but the local law is not effective until it's filed with the Secretary of State, right?
Kim?
Yes, I know, I'm seeing 24.
Right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, just
Sorry.
want to be sure. No, want to be sure.
Carl will make that motion.
Okay, second?
Berenger will second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Okay, next order of business, trustee Berenger. I think, let's see, no, wait a minute.
I think
Out of
that
order.
was,
Oh, yeah, take that out, I'm sorry.
that's,
I don't know.
that's not happening.
I don't see
Okay.
anything.
Very good, thank you.
That's
What
not
is-
happening.
What are we taking
Which one's
out?
that?
The tactical services class they wanted to go to, it's been
Okay.
canceled.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
That's taken out.
Which-
Okay, so that's just,
Okay, so we're into
we're going to the inventory.
5A,
Yeah,
Okay.
5B.
5B, excuse me.
So 5A is out?
Clerk's office?
Well, 5A is listed as
Well-
surplus,
I
though.
messed up.
Okay.
Because we
Okay.
got a last minute pull-out yesterday.
Okay.
So
All
this
right.
is 5A. According to this agenda, it's 5A, but it's going to be read now.
Okay,
But I'm-
See your, but I'm not
On
doing
5B.
that's all right, so 5A,
Yes.
okay. Trustee O'Connor, which is listed as 5B on your paper, but it is the clerk's office inventory request to dispose.
Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees declares the following clerk's office non-working equipment surplus and of no value, and authorizes its removal from inventory and disposal. The Dell computer, the mayor's Exeter desk, serial number JR8D7X2. I'd like to put this in the form of a motion.
Carl will second it.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
And O'Connor, aye.
Thank you so much. Next order of business is the introductory local law 2024, amending Chapter 180 of the Village Code taxation to provide certain exemptions to volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers in scheduling of the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to recuse myself and step off the dais at this time.
You're just setting the public hearing. But, yeah, okay.
I just don't want any,
Okay, no problem.
thank you.
Good.
Yep. Just for the public's note, trustee Carl is an active duty firefighter here in the Village of Monroe, a volunteer, and appropriately so has recused himself from any motions on this board's doing. Okay, so we have introductory local law of 2024, amending Chapter 180 of the Village Code, taxation to provide certain exemptions for volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers, and the scheduling of the public hearing. Be resolved that an introductory local law titled amending Chapter 180 of the Village Code, taxation to provide certain exemptions for volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers is hereby introduced by Mayor Dwyer before the Board of Trustees of the Village of Monroe, County of Orange, State of New York, and be it further resolved that the copies of the aforesaid proposed local law be laid upon the desk of each member of the Board of Trustees. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees shall hold a public hearing on said proposed local law at the Village Hall, 7 Stage Road, Monroe, New York, at 7 p.m. on February 20th, 2024. And be it further resolved that the village clerk shall publish or cause to be published a public notice in the official newspaper of the Village of Monroe no later than 5 days prior thereto. I need a motion to approve this introductory local law and the public hearing date.
Ferraro will make the motion.
Berenger will second.
Discussion? Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
O'Connor, aye.
All right, so carried. Very good, thank you. And trustee Carl abstain? Okay. Next order of business, event application, Independence Day 2024. Trustee Carl, you want to do that one?
Hold on one second, let me just get with it here.
5D on our sheet.
Yep. All right. Resolve, the Board of Trustees approves the event application submitted by Mayor Dwyer to host the village's annual Independence Day celebration on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., with a rain date scheduled for Friday, July 5th, 2024. Emergency services, along with Marshall and Sterling, the village's insurance carrier, will be notified. Sign off on the event application has been made by the DPW, Building Department, and Police Department. The Police Department will provide police officers to shut down roadways and assist with traffic control points and crowd control. The estimated cost for additional police services is $4,200. And I will put that in the form of a motion.
Second, please.
Berenger will second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Next order of business, event application, Village of Monroe Farmers Market. Trustee Ferraro, you want to do that?
Okay. Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the event application submitted by Mayor Dwyer for the Village of Monroe's Farmers Market. The market will begin on Sunday, June 2nd, 2024, and conclude on Sunday, October 27th, 2024. The market will be open on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The application has been reviewed and approved by the Building Department, the DPW, and the Police Department. There are no additional costs for the police protection or DPW services. The Police Department will set up do not enter signs, and cones will be set up and taken down by officers that are working on their assigned shifts. Marshall and Sterling Insurance, Monroe Fire District, and Monroe Volunteer Ambulance Corps will be notified of the event when the approval letter is sent. And I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second?
Berenger will second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Next order of business, event application, Memorial Day Parade 2024, Sunday, May 26, 2024. Resolved, the Board of Trustees approve the following parade route for the annual Memorial Day Parade on Sunday, May 26, 2024. Formation will start at Smith's Clove Park, beginning at 12:15. Step off is at 1:30. Parade will proceed onto Spring Street, turning left onto Mapes, through the underpass to the Monroe Volunteer Ambulance Corps Memorial. The color guard will present arms and wreaths shall be placed. Parade will make a right turn at Carpenter Place through the downtown of Lake Street. From there, they will proceed to the Monroe Cemetery for formal dedication and disbanding. Approval for the event will be contingent upon permission being granted by the New York State DOT, which is a 33C form, to use Route 17M for the Memorial Day Parade. Sign off on the event application has been made by the DPW, Building Department, and Police Department. The Police Department will provide police officers to assist with setup prior to the event, traffic control during the event, and breakdown after the event. The estimated cost for the additional police services is $1,470. Marshall and Sterling Insurance, as well as emergency services, will be notified on the approval letter to notify all parties of road closures. I need a motion to accept the date and the event.
Carl will make that motion.
Ferraro, second.
Okay, so we had trustee Carl and trustee Ferraro?
Yep.
Okay, call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Caroline?
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Next order of business is a memorandum of agreement, Village of Monroe and IBEW Local 363. Resolve the Board of Trustees authorize Mayor Dwyer to sign a memorandum of agreement with IBEW, which is the local that represents the DPW and water. Local 363 as follows. Article 28, Section 7 of the collective bargaining agreement shall be replaced in its entirety with the following. In the event the mayor designates an automotive mechanic as lead automotive mechanic, he or she shall receive an increase of $2 per hour above the base pay scale. This $2 will not be used as a factor in computing raises. Nothing herein shall require the village mayor to designate an automotive mechanic as lead automotive mechanic. I need a motion to adopt this memorandum of agreement with the union.
Berenger will make the motion.
Second?
Carl is second, just some discussion.
Yep.
I'm not quite understanding this.
So in the current,
Nothing herein shall require the village mayor to designate an automotive mechanic as lead automotive mechanic. I don't know. Just explain it.
yeah, so currently, right now, the automotive mechanic receives a stipend, but when we bring Will DeAngelis into a mechanic,
Right.
he is distinguished by the lead automotive mechanic. We didn't have that piece.
So the lead automotive mechanic is getting a stipend now?
$2 above,
So Steve is getting $2
$2.
above
right?
to be the lead mechanic?
Yes. And that's what
Okay.
this specifically relates to, and only this. And this survives Steve and Steve only.
So is he the lead mechanic now?
He is. But he does not, it doesn't designate it as lead. So to separate the now appointment of Will DeAngelis as a mechanic, which is in the contract,
So you have a mechanic and then you have a lead mechanic.
right?
All right.
So I didn't want that getting misconstrued or anything happening.
I get it. I mean, I get it. The only question I have, this is not budgeted because this is something that's come up, so.
No, this here, the $2 is there already in the budget. It's just, it's actually, it's just
Okay.
the language.
All right, okay,
That's all it is.
all right,
Yeah,
okay.
it's in there.
So it's already built into the budget?
It's already built into the budget, yep.
Okay, all right.
May I ask a question? So you're not creating a position of lead mechanic that will always have to be filled?
No, none of the positions have to be filled. It depends on what management and what the union, and I mean that in the word of the management down at the department, what they decide is the most effectual and effective, rather effective method of doing their work.
So this is not like, say, a police contract where you establish the position of lieutenant, and that position is paid X, even if you don't appoint to that position.
Right, so there is no schedule of salary for the lieutenant, but to your point right there, the sergeant, the admin sergeant and the lieutenant, to get out of PERB back in 2015, was to be able to negotiate and say, you know what, we're just not gonna fill it.
Okay,
I.e., in the IBEW, there's a secretary position.
okay, but you don't fill it. Okay,
Fill it.
okay, so
But
that's,
it's on their roster.
and that's why this language, nothing shall require. Okay, okay.
All right, now these titles are in the DPW contract,
Mechanic
the
is.
mechanic is. Now, is this something that we have to get approval from Orange County, Human Resources?
I don't think so. Did we?
For what?
For the lead mechanic. I don't think,
There is no lead automotive mechanic in human resources.
I'm just asking a
he's just
question.
he's
I
asking,
know that in the contract, the IBEW that already exists, it was already that Steve Mihawk
got the stipend,
got
right?
the stipend of $2 an hour.
Right.
Mhm.
That was already language that's in there. This here is additional, I guess, just to cover it, so they don't have to give
Steve the give Will the $2.
For $2 an hour.
Right.
I don't know, I think this is just clarification, so you don't have to.
Well, what you could do, we could do this contingent upon civil service either agreeing or modifying. We could always modify it.
Did Melissa, has she seen this?
So,
Okay, so it's probably fine. So you can certainly make it contingent on,
she wrote it.
yeah, contingent on checking with Orange County.
I just don't want it coming back on us.
Probably.
you
No,
know,
I get it.
So,
Yeah.
if the county, everybody's on board, then I'm fine with it, but I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody's on board,
Yeah.
that's all.
Got it, thank you.
Same sheet of music.
See if
Same
it's
sheet of
a
music.
lead automotive mechanic.
That's it.
Job
Just take that agreement.
description at civil service.
That's all. And if you want to go over, we can do it tomorrow. Okay, so I need a motion.
Carl will make that motion.
O'Connor will second.
Okay, call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Oh, excuse me, step back a second. Hang on a minute. I had Berenger on the first, and I had Carl on the second, then we had a discussion, so we had it
Okay.
already, I
All right.
apologize. Okay, so we had Berenger and trustee Carl. Call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Okay, next order of business is the organizational meeting rescheduled. Trustee O'Connor?
Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees accept the rescheduled date for the organizational meeting from Monday, April 1st, 2024 to Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 at 7 p.m. with the regularly scheduled Board of Trustees meeting immediately following. Due to the primary election, the Board of Trustees meeting will be held in the upstairs boardroom. And I'd like to put this in the form of a motion.
Second?
Carl, a second.
Discussion? Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Next order of business is the authorization to sign the Edmunds GovTech, General Accounting and Water Bill Software, whatever the mouthful. Resolve the Board of Trustees authorize Mayor Dwyer to sign the agreement with Edmunds GovTech for the purpose of general accounting and water billing software to be allocated evenly between budget lines A 1325.4500, Treasurer Contractual, and F 8310.4500, Water Admin Contractual. I need a motion to accept this proposal by Edmunds for the updating of both our general accounting and our water payment modules.
Berenger will make the motion.
Ferraro, second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
We had a conversation, I'm still a little confused here on the software service subscription.
Sure.
List all these 3-year things here, but yet on the annual fee, it says $21,000.
Right.
Did you get clarification on that?
Ken has not gotten back to me. Let me just call it up a second myself here, so I'm looking at it. What I'd like to do, it's not gonna make a heck of a beans for a couple of weeks, but maybe what we can do is table it, and let me reach out to him for clarification, and maybe we could visit this back this evening. If not, then next meeting.
Yeah, it's just confusing.
Yeah, no,
I'm not
we
understanding.
did have a conversation about it. It was a multi-year, and that's why it's there. But I want to make sure, to your point, I think what's happened is, and here's what I think, and I'm throwing.
Well, I'm looking at that $21,000 for 3 years, but here it
Right.
says annual fees, so I just want to make sure we're,
I think that was just overstated, but to your point, I've got to call into him, let's try it again before we leave this evening. So why don't we table that, okay?
sorry about that.
Next order of business is the implementation of the Historic Preservation Law Planning Board comments. Counsel, you want to,
Yeah, all that's come up is, the Historic Preservation Board's authority is vested right now in the Planning Board, and they have had an applicant who replaced a balustrade. He's in the Historic District. He should have gone to the Planning Board for approval when they put on their Historic Preservation hat. He did not do that, didn't know to do that, so he appeared before them, and they are suggesting that the village board, which you can do by resolution, determine a fee, an application fee, they're suggesting $50, just for the administrative, plus any consultants, et cetera, but that's already covered in the local law. So by resolution, you can set a fee.
Right now.
Yeah, you could set the fee right now. The, a fee of $50 for application. Now, they're also suggesting that the board send a letter to each of the properties affected by the new law notifying them of the law. Well, that would be every property in the historic district, whether it's historic or not, and any property that's listed by SHPO. Now, there's a list of those in the local law,
In the CRIS system.
in the CRIS system, but I think it's also listed in the local law, because remember, we had to take the Roscoe
Correct.
Smith property,
Right.
house out.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
There's quite a few, and then anyone with property in the historic district, which is, that would be, I'm sure you could do it, but I don't know that it's necessary. It may be that you can do that, all right, you can send a letter out, or you could maybe make, an announcement on the village website. You could perhaps do some posting around the historic district, just, check the website. Your house is in, the historic district. So however the board wants to do it.
Well, I'm a little confused, and I think we spoke about this. So if you've got a home that's listed on either one of the systems, so SHPO, CRIS, designated in the local law as one of those properties, this would be applicable as far as the historic preservation law. All right, but, so I'm right in the middle of it, let's say, and I have a two-story colonial that was built in 1999. Why would you want to send me a letter?
Because the purpose of the historical district, the preservation law, is to preserve the character of the historic district. So, let me just look at the local law. I want to just make sure I'm correct here.
They want you to be the whistleblower.
That's right, that's what I'm.
So we really need people to know they're in the historic district also.
Right,
Well,
and
that's what
But we do have a list, but
But
Right,
those are
but-
those that are actually.
Like signage,
yes.
like maybe signage in the beginning and,
Well-
I don't know, changing.
No,
the
I would think using our means of advertising and posting, that from here to here to here to here is considered, and we have that,
Right.
or is historic district. So anything that you do needs to be approved externally.
any external modification.
Utilize constant contact, you can utilize the,
We'll have to
our
put it in the paper.
website.
Yeah,
Do we even have a sign that says historic?
I mean, you could probably just send that out
You know,
regular
to all
mail,
the-
no? Yeah,
that's what I think.
I don't think it would have to go out certified, would it?
I certainly have a lot of time where I could go around and knock on every door.
Should have told me that the last couple of weeks. Hi, how are you here?
A lot of ring cameras.
How they talk back to you. Tell you nobody's here now, leave a message.
It's a very long,
I think if we could get some kind of signage too, or something that distinguishes what the historic district, where it is exactly.
Well,
there
unfortunately,
is a
not,
map.
Yeah,
unfortunately, not unfortunately. So if you said, let's say it was from this building that way.
yeah,
That would be true, but then there may be properties that aren't on that line that aren't
Right.
actually listed. And if you look at the map, remember when Max had first blocked it out as a block?
Right.
And Jim says, you can't do that. I need to know exactly what you're referring to, each property, and it looks like a jigsaw puzzle piece.
yeah.
Right, and completely out of it is Mitz's place.
There you go, perfect
That's
example.
completely out of the
Right.
the area.
So-
It's out of the historic
Yeah,
district, yeah,
completely,
but
but
it's
it is.
listed.
But it's listed.
You know, sometimes you go to like a downtown area and it says historic district.
I think there is actually one out there.
I
Like
feel like there's a brown sign or something.
oh, that's in front of the manse, yes.
Okay,
Yep, that's true. That was the federal sign. It's true.
So are we going to look to do a resolution on this, at least number one on this thing that they're requesting, to do the proposed fee?
Yeah, you think so? But is it listed as one,
We propose a fee of $50 plus any,
the law has been adopted, so it's just a fee really, of anything,
mhm.
And you would
no matter who we're gonna send it to.
adopt a resolution for
Okay.
$50 and notify the building department that if someone comes in. You do need an application form. I don't know who's preparing that. But it should be just, I don't know, fairly simple and
You could,
straightforward.
yeah, if you can reach out to either Newburgh or Beacon,
And see what they're,
and see what they have, and circle back with me.
you know, it's,
Okay. All right, I need a resolution to adopt the application fee of $50 plus any consultant costs as set forth in this local law.
Carl will make that motion.
Second,
Ferraro,
please.
second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
All right, so we had Berenger, aye, Ferraro, aye, Carl, aye,
And O'Connor, aye.
aye, Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Okay, next order of business is the Village of Monroe Board of Trustees resolution concerning violation on property on Elm Street known as 207-2-9. As per the Village Code, Article 1, Section 155A, 6E, failure to control trash and rubbish, all land must be kept free of dead, dying trees, accumulation of brush, shrubs, weeds, grass, stumps, roots, and excessive or obnoxious growth, garbage, refuge, or debris that would either tend to start a fire or increase the intensity of a fire already started or causing poisoning or irritation to people or animals, or cause, or tend to cause or enhance an unhealthy or dangerous or obnoxious condition on said property or on an adjacent or neighboring property. The specific violation is garbage and debris throughout the parking lot. There has been failure to remedy. Whereas the longstanding violations of the Village Property Law, Chapter 155A, 6E of the Village of Monroe Code have existed at Elm Street, Village of Monroe 10950, designated as tax map SBL 207-2-9, and whereas the property owner has been given proper and lawful notice of said violations and have been directed to correct the violations, and whereas the property owner was given due notice of a due process hearing to be held at the Board of Trustees on February 6, 2024 at 7 p.m., and whereas the owner did not appear, and whereas the owner has not taken the steps to correct the violations and the violations still exist, and whereas the Board of Trustees is authorized pursuant to Section 155-A8 of the Property Maintenance Law to authorize that the village undertake the remedy to correct such violation at the property at the owner's expense and cost. Be it further resolved that the village clerk shall mail a certified copy of this resolution to the property owner via certified mail, and be it further resolved that any violations that remain uncorrected on this property as of today, February 6th, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village, its contractors, or agents to enter upon the property to correct the aforesaid violation, and that all costs incurred by the village, including administrative, legal, and corrective costs, be charged to the property owner, and such charge will be added to the tax bill of the property owner if not paid within 30 days of such notification to the last known address of the property owner as shown on the village tax records. I need a motion to approve this.
Carl will make the motion.
O'Connor will second.
Further discussion? Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Next order of business is the property known as 145 North Main, SBL 207-2-1. As per the Village Code, Section 155A, 6E, failure to control rubbish and trash. All land must be kept free of dead, dying trees, accumulations of brush, shrubs, weeds, grass, stumps, roots, excessive or obnoxious growth, garbage, refuge, or debris which would either tend to start a fire or cause the intensity of a fire already started, or cause poisoning or irritation to people or animals, or cause or tend or to enhance an unhealthy or dangerous or obnoxious condition on said property or on any adjacent property or neighboring property. The specific violation is garbage and debris throughout the Elm Street side of the property. There has been failure to remedy. Whereas the longstanding violation of the Village of Monroe Property Code Maintenance Law, Chapter 155A, 6E of the Village Code, have existed at 145 North Main Street, Village of Monroe, 10950, designated as tax map SBL 207-2-1. Just 1 second here, I want to just see something. Whereas the property owner has been given proper notice and lawful notice of said violation and has been directed to correct the violations, and whereas the property owner was given a due process notice of a due process hearing to be held by the Board of Trustees on February 6, 2024 at 7 p.m., and whereas the owner did not appear, and whereas the owner has not taken the steps to correct the violation still exists, and whereas the Board of Trustees is authorized pursuant to Section 155-A8 of the Property Maintenance Law to authorize the village to take such remedy to remedy such violation at the property's owner's expense and cost. To be further resolved that the village clerk shall mail a certified copy of this resolution to the property owner via certified mail. Be it further resolved that any violation that remains uncorrected on the property as of today, February 6, 2024, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village, its contractors, or agents to enter upon the property to correct the aforesaid violation, and that all costs incurred by the village, including administrative, legal, and corrective costs, shall be charged to the property owner, and such charge shall be added to the tax bill of the property owner if not paid within 30 days of notification to the last known address of the property owner as shown on the village tax records. I need a motion to adopt this resolution.
Carl will make the motion.
Second,
Ferraro, second.
call the question.
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carl, aye.
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried. Okay, next order of business. This was a late addition. I had a Zoom call this morning with our vendor that we use for our energy supply side, and M&R Energy, Melissa Cabozzi. And so our contract, which we had went into 3 years ago, terminated or completed its term in December 2023. And we were waiting to see what the indicators would tell us in the market. And obviously, the rate has gone up from 5 cents per on the electric side, from 5 cents per kilowatt hour to 8 cents per kilowatt hour. That would increase our budget at 26, at the current usage of $26,767 for a fiscal year for the Village of Monroe in its energy use, total, across the board, everything. The second part of that was the natural gas. Currently at 435. We were paying 57 cents per cubic foot. We are now looking at an 18-month contract beginning in March of '24 at 0.56, which is a reduction of $200 savings. So we almost went pretty flat there. Based on my analysis, I have some industry knowledge. And based on Melissa's extensive knowledge, I recommend that the board move forward with locking this in. We went with the 20-month. It was a little bit cheaper than the 12-month, and I think anything that we can do, we'll do insofar as changing our contracts after 20 months. We just came out of a 3-year, but the 3-year doesn't make sense, and the 12-month doesn't really either because we don't know where the wind's going to blow. You know, and it's all based on the electric it made in the state of New York, for example. Most of it's made with natural gas. Because it's been a mild winter, natural gas is in surplus. And because it's in surplus, what you got now is the cost of the utility or the commodity dropping.
Dropped a lot, I've noticed.
Exactly. So while that's good privately, I'm sure for a lot of folks, it also brings the cost of the utility down, but it's at an all-time high. That's the highest number I've ever seen. I personally, at one time, was paying almost 16 cents per kilowatt hour, back not quite 2 years ago. And Melissa actually helped me, and you know that you all have that same availability with Melissa. Yeah, okay. Well, that's something to know. But I do want to bring that to the board's attention. You've all had a chance to read it. You've heard me a little bit. I think that's my recommendation that we lock in these two rates for both utilities and then plan accordingly during the budget process.
That was my question is, you're gonna have to plug that number into the,
Right in.
Now, this is general and water, this is everything,
It's everything electric.
other than the streetlights, we pay
Everything. No, everything.
that's including streetlights?
Everything. The difference is 26. So what I did was, I gave her the entire cost of utility in the Village of Monroe. Let's say it's $130,000. She, based on the bill, which actually shows the kilowatts used across the village, and plugged in this number, and the difference was 26,767. What will happen during the budget year, once the new lights come in, and we do realize that 70%, or whatever that commodity change will be, because we will be paying back some of the debt service on that, that will reduce itself.
Oh,
So,
yeah, it better,
yeah,
going from them high-pressure sodium vapor to LED lights.
right. And I'm also reaching out, I reached out to a company in Pennsylvania that does solar, and I've asked them just to come out and do just a casual conversation about the DPW garage. That garage has got to be, what, 300 feet long?
It's big.
It's big.
Oh, putting solar
Both
there.
sides. Throw solar up there. It's a standing seam, which allows them to be on the seam and not on the panel. If it was on the panel, I wouldn't do it.
All right.
If it's on the seam, they can bolt it to it, and it doesn't create any potential water damage. That's a big farm up there, just right there.
Okay.
So if the board wishes to, I need an authorization to have her draw up contracts. So if we're all in the same church?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need a motion to enter into a contract with M&R Energy as prescribed by her in this document right here, with a rate of .08 on the electric and at .56 on the CCF.
Yes.
Yes.
I just got one question especially on the electric. If for some reason the electric rates were to drop,
No, you're locked in.
you're locked
You're
in?
locked in.
So if it goes down to 7 cents kilowatt hour,
We're paying
we're locked
more.
in at 8.
We're paying more, yeah.
It's a gamble, but when I did this 3-year, if you all remember, it was at .058. That was actually a lock-in that I was pretty confident. Boy, oh boy, did we hit pay dirt on that.
Now we're not.
That's always the gamble.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
And, you know,
commodity.
It's a
and
presidential year, election, anything can happen.
anything can happen. You open up that pipeline.
Anything can happen, absolutely.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Berenger will make the motion.
Ferraro, second.
Further discussion? Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, aye.
Carla,
O'Connor, aye.
Dwyer, aye, so carried, thank you. Okay, that's the last that we had on the agenda. I don't think I have, yeah, that was the last time I had, am I correct, right? Okay. So having said that, anything from the board?
Yeah, on Monday, on the 12th at Smith Clove Park, there's a blood drive from 1 to 7. I know that blood donors are urgently needed, so I just wanted to let people know of that if they're available.
What date is that, Doug?
Monday, the 12th, from 1 to 7 at Smith Clove Park.
Okay, so February 12th, 1 to 7 p.m., Smith Clove Park.
Yeah, it's in the meeting hall and activity room.
Okay, so everyone out in the public there and on TV land, February 12th, 1 to 7 p.m., Smith Clove Park, blood drive. If you can, please do. Trustee Ferraro?
Nothing.
Trustee Carl?
yeah, just a couple quick things. We've resurrected our Drinking Water Source Protection 2 committee meetings. We just had one last week, and we were granted additional grant monies through the state to continue that with the consultants. So we're trying to tie up some loose ends and some issues that have arisen in the watershed to try to get some clarification and help from the state on that. Mostly State Department of Health. So stay tuned. The Calvin Terrace startup for the water main replacement is scheduled for next week, weather permitting. We talked briefly here just a few minutes ago about the streetlight upgrade status, so I just want to keep pushing that till we get everything done. Also, it appears garbage, boxes, property maintenance violations, I guess, have increased tenfold since the first of the year. I know you had a meeting with Morangi and town officials. Has any resolution been done on, we've got a serious problem out there, especially cardboard boxes blowing down the street. It's just, to me, it's degrading to see what's happened since the beginning of the year. Just driving around Monroe, it's disgusting.
Sure.
I think it's been going on for a while, and I
Well,
think
it's gotten, well,
people need to put stuff in bins. It's just on the side of
Well,
the road.
look, it started over the summer, because I brought it to the board's attention, and we had issued, I believe it was up on Winchester, a violation to a property owner on something that should have been picked up by the garbage, and it wasn't.
Right.
And now here we are, with, you know, with, you're all seeing what I'm seeing, and I'm just wondering, Mayor, if any, has any resolution come out of your meeting or information that you were looking for?
Sure. So, out of the meeting, first off came out, we wanted inclusion in any discussions that would be had with the town, who does represent the garbage district. But I wanted our village for sure, and I recommended, obviously, that the village of Harriman be included, and they were in agreement to that. I asked for a copy of the original contract that would have been done with Morangi, to my knowledge, back in 2008. We did finally receive that, and I went through it. There are some questions that I have from that, which include, I have asked, subsequent to that review, I asked for the total tonnage that is being included in that contract, what they actually have contracted to pick up. There was a discussion at the meeting where they mentioned, and I always seem to remember April of '23, there was something like 851 tons of garbage picked up district-wide in the month of April. So I did ask for some history on that, which I have not gotten. I did ask to find out more about the inventory of homes. So right now, I've asked the village code enforcement for documents that support how many rentals do we have in the village of Monroe. If you're not a single-family home, to my knowledge, and I'll let council weigh in on it maybe after some research, if you're in a single-family home, you're part of the residential garbage district. But once you go beyond that into multifamily use, whether you are registered as a rental or whether you are a illegal, I'll say, rental, where you have not gone through the procedural work of becoming a rental property, my concern is what's happening is that there's a tremendous amount of garbage being placed out there. And as I understand it, and it's business, so Morangi is saying, listen, we're picking up 851 tons in the month of April, for example, of 2023, where historically maybe we picked up 670. So now the contract, which has already been instituted and reviewed and updated twice that I'm aware of, they did one in 2018, it ended in 23, and they did one in 23, and they increased, it will go on to 2028. The concern that I have is, what were you picking up? What are you picking up? Where are you picking it up? Because I think one of the things we can find out is, and we have actually, found properties that are benefiting from the garbage district that shouldn't be. So if you are a multifamily home, legally or illegally, and you're getting a residential pickup, maybe you're not supposed to be. And we need to identify it. So I've asked the code enforcement and the building department to identify what homes are and what homes are not listed. And then we do some diligence behind that. We reach out into the code side of things. We reach out to the PD, and we ask for intelligence, and we keep gathering that information. That information should take the inventory of homes or buildings where they're residentially you live in. And you should be able to, let's just say it's 3,000 homes. We should be able to, through the audit, we should figure out that we have 3,000 homes, and how many of them are residential. And if what's happening now, the town had put out the edict that you will put out only 2 totes per pickup. The village receives 2 pickups per week and 1 recycle pickup. If we only put out 2, and they, I know the town put out that thing about 35-gallon pails, but Morangi has said, if you put out 2 pails, we may not like it's a 90-gallon pail, but we will pick it up, as long as it's in the receptacle and there's only 2. That's what we're picking up. That was done without the benefit of negotiation by the village. The challenge with the village is, we have a lot of properties that do not have rentals, or at least sanctioned or authorized or lawful rentals, but they have uses going on where, we have 10 cars in the driveway, on the front lawn, where there's multiple people living in the home that we don't know the history of them. We don't know anything about them. But what's resulting is 10 totes outside in front of the house. And, bags and bags upon bags of garbage. And Morangi has said, we're not gonna pick it up, and true to word, they're not. So I just had something the other day, for instance, on a property on Gilbert Street, and there was 1 tote on the curb and 10 bags. And, I got my Irish up, and I went out with DPW workers, put the gloves on, I started taking the bags of garbage apart. I want to know whose garbage it was. As I'm doing that, I come to find out that it's an owner of a home back behind some commercial property, which I never even knew existed, but it does. And he said, that's mine. And I said, well, you can't do this. It's got to be in totes. You were given notice publicly and on websites and notification. And he said, well, I didn't know. So I said, well, it's got to come out of here for now, and you got to get listed. And my recommendation is take a picture of that garbage can right there, Morangi, call them and ask for 2 totes. Here's the problem. He has a neighbor that has a residential home. So each one gets 2 totes. The home that did put the tote out gets 2. That's 6. On a pickup, if everything is plopped on that curb right there, 6 of them, how many is Morangi going to pick up?
2,
What happens to the other 4?
they said there. I don't
Exactly.
know.
So what's happened is,
And block the sidewalk, too.
to block the
That's-
sidewalk.
Yeah.
So in the layout or the rollout of this plan of 2 totes, 35 gallons, whatever, Morangi's been great, they'll do anything, we ask, but it comes down to numbers.
But I also think there's people that have tons of boxes
Well, that's
from
another
different
part.
stores, and the boxes, like, I have a green bin, this is just tons of it piled up, it's blowing everywhere.
So I think that, to your point, I don't mean to cut you off, but I
Yeah.
think the point behind that is education. So we've got people that are just taking big boxes and dumping it.
Just throwing it.
Okay? This is what they're doing. Crush it, put it away, put it in the container, but that's education. We need to educate them. So maybe we need to do an infomercial. Get an American Indian out there and let him, maybe
Put a
show
tear in
something.
his eye.
Put a tear in his eye.
Put your Christmas sweater on and do another commercial.
I'll do another commercial.
Also tied to that, I think we should have a time when trash cans should be put out and recycled put out and then removed from
And
the
remove.
curb.
And
It
you
shouldn't
physically
stay
have
out
to do
there all
this.
week.
Right. And that's the education and the information and then the compliance. And that's when code enforcement can come in,
Yeah.
when they're not doing that, and then we can lawfully do our thing. I've recommended, just for the public, I recommended to Morangi that they expense out containers for the Village of Monroe. If they want to do the district, that's fine. I would like them to supply every one of my residents here in the Village of Monroe with 2 totes with Morangi's name written on it. If you put the garbage in those containers, they get picked up. You don't, they won't. And then code enforcement's coming
Are
behind
the
that.
totes covered? Are they?
The lids, yeah, the
Okay,
regular, the
okay,
big
oh.
gigantic Marty, the big
Okay,
trash
good.
cans like you're familiar with
Yeah.
from the store.
The problem that I see with those bigger ones, and it's more in other towns where they have the one arm,
Yeah.
the guy comes, picks it up, they leave them there. They got wheels on them, but they lay on the side of the road, nobody moves them,
Well,
they're
that's what I
blocking
just said.
sidewalks, and
Right.
it's,
That's why we have what I just said, a time to put them out, a time to bring them back.
But I think that's all
There are
education.
communities that do that.
Cornwall and Hudson, I know, was pretty strict with it.
Yep.
I don't know what we can do legislation-wise to do that, but it's very difficult for me, I don't know about you all, but it's very difficult for me to tell somebody, an adult, what to do. I mean, don't you know?
Yeah.
So, to answer your question, the
But there are
long-winded answer,
communities that do
I've
that.
gotten some information, I haven't gotten to the finish line, I really believe there's another meeting that needs to be had, and we need to discuss what they have listed as two-family, three-family, four-family, commercial properties in the village of Monroe. I'm not concerned with Harriman and the town, I'm concerned with this village, because we have a huge problem, and we're hearing it. In the month of January, they've written 40 violations on properties,
For garbage?
garbage.
Certified letters going out.
Going
That's-
out.
That's a cost to this village.
And has the village picked that garbage up?
Can't. They have to, there's a process.
Yeah.
And while we're doing that, it's growing penicillin.
And when summer comes,
Ooh.
the rodents, the bugs, the bears,
The smell.
it's,
And there's a lot of frustration,
and we have no control.
And I think,
Or can we have control?
and that's another conversation that maybe we consider.
If we got to petition our village residents to petition out of the garbage district, if nobody wants to hear our cries and see our mess,
Because it's the town board that makes that decision. Maybe you can have a discussion with the town board about, on their motion, right? They could change the district, right? And take you guys out of it, but even that's subject to referendum. So it could happen, but it would be the town deciding that they want that to happen. And then the village now has, is picking up garbage for the village, but I don't know what you would end up paying for that since,
Well, yeah, but
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
either, but I think the real bigger piece is, it is about money. It's about the financial cost of a business's operation. And like I said, Morangi's always been great. They've always done everything and well and beyond. I could speak for that personally, even with my
no,
own garbage.
up until this year, we've
But something-
enjoyed a good run.
Right.
No question about that.
But I think if you've given, everybody got 2 totes, right? And if your garbage exceeds that, whether it's 2 pickups, 3 pickups, 4 pickups, and we see the multiple additional garbage, you now have to get another tote, and you pay for it. So now when they go there and they see 3 Morangi totes, they pick up 3, but you're paying a different rate. Well, we have a district, it's a tax bill. Everybody's paying it. So some people are getting it, taking advantage of it, and getting benefit that you and I aren't. I put out 1 pail.
I counted 6 at one house yesterday.
Oh, I got a house
I
that's
have a
got 10.
picture, yeah.
So, and they were a different color, too. So,
Garbage
this
cans?
has to be addressed. I think there's a lot of holes that need to be filled, to your point, and I think we need to have the next conversation. I did try to ask for a couple of things, and I haven't gotten any, I don't think we've gotten anything back since that last, no.
Because I think the village residents, as they see the garbage starting to pile up and continue to complain, may be very receptive to us going it alone, or maybe going with another village and doing our own bidding and whatever we got. You got to remember, and this is something I just found out through the mayor, is all these employees that are picking the garbage up are being paid prevailing wages.
yeah, but again, the district cannot be disabled or dissolved unless the town board wants to do it. And if the town board does, if I'm the town board and I dissolve the district and I only pick up my own garbage
In the
outside, okay,
unincorporated.
my rates are probably gonna go down. But the village rates for that same thing are probably gonna go up. And because the village apparently is the problem. That's what I'm hearing.
Well,
No, it's all over.
it's
It's in
all
the
over.
town, too.
Okay.
Harriman has said that they don't really have the problem. I've asked them.
Yeah,
They don't really have that, but they are concerned about people that are benefiting from a residential contract, but getting commercial pickup. And I mean that by
Well,
quantities.
Okay, so there's a couple things here, I think, as I'm thinking through this. One is, when you talk about violations, if you've got, again, you've got a local, you've got a law in the books now that says, if you live in a single-family house and you have a CO for a single-family house and it looks like you got, more than like a family in there, all right, that's a violation. And that's not about the garbage, it's about the use.
Right.
Okay? As for the garbage, if you've got, if people don't understand that they can't just put boxes out, education, in my opinion, is not gonna help. They're lazy, they don't care.
I watched it last night, while I was talking to you on the phone, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, education, obviously you have to do that.
Yes.
Right.
Because you have to give them notice, right? There may be a way to, and I don't know that this is the case, I'd have to look into it, but there may be a way to sort of clean it up, and lien the property, and not go through the whole process of, due notice and all of that, but I don't know. I'm just
Well,
making
listen,
that statement.
I would ask then if that's the case, because if you can.
I'm not
help
sure that's the case.
I'm not saying, we don't know, I'm saying, but if what we're trying to do is to not only short circuit, but to be more effectual in a more timely fashion, than watching paint dry, the way we do now, I think it would be in our best interest to do that. So if you need to take some time to research it, or reach out to municipalities, I guarantee in Rockland that are dealing with the same issues,
Yeah.
I would do so. I mean, there's gotta be councils that we have relationships with down there that could actually, maybe opine and give us some guidance.
I know
just
Montebella's been
condemned that.
having an issue, but it's not that, and they've tried to do some things, but
They've just condemned a house that had too many people living in it.
Who did?
Yeah,
yeah, but all they did was get the people out of it.
got the people and condemned the
Temporary.
house and just pretty much took away the income.
Well, I'm just concerned about the garbage right now, that's all.
Yeah.
I just don't want this warmer weather to come, and, we do our Operation Clean Sweep, and we'll have to have, probably 30 or 40
Weekly.
roll-off dumpsters to pick up all the debris that's laying
And the
around.
bears attack
Okay,
it.
next.
Okay, trustee O'Connor, you got anything?
No, the only thing I was gonna ask is, nobody's doubting that the tonnage has probably increased significantly. Is there
No.
any sort of audit that says that it is X, or is Morangi just
I've
on?
asked for the numbers.
Okay,
I haven't gotten them yet.
all right,
I'm sure I'll get them,
all right.
but I haven't gotten them yet. And again, let's make it clear, perfectly clear to everybody watching and everybody here. This is not about Morangi not doing the job.
Right.
Morangi's doing an incredible job, notwithstanding, and we've all benefited from them since '08 and probably the company before that. Garbage, the pickup has never been the issue. It's the amount that they're picking up. That number has changed. That triggered a different event here, and the response to that event has been, well, now we're going to restrict the number of totes you can put out there. That's not gonna do it, because obviously the garbage is there. That habit's not changing. It's what they're picking up. So now we need to really go beyond that and say, okay, what do we need? You need 6 totes. Do you have any issue? Maybe that we have to price the thing differently. Maybe this is the baseline for the garbage district, which is on your tax bill, refuge. I think it's 402, something like that a year. Yeah, so whatever it is, you pay that, but if you're a guy that has more garbage, notwithstanding any other conditions, just the garbage, you need 2 other totes that looks clean and neat, and it's put away and the lid's shut, then you need it, then you buy it. You rent it out from Morangi through the town, you get those contracts settled, however you do it, and now Morangi's picking up lawfully and getting their costs covered. That's the point.
Yeah.
I wonder if the village could have a separate agreement with Morangi to pick up additional garbage, like whatever's out there, and then keep track of it, and bill, and then you.
I think that's happening right now in the
But
village of South Blooming Grove.
I'm not quite sure exactly. Morangi did say something that they didn't want to be bookkeepers. They
But
did say something, they liked the arrangement of the town, I think if I remember correctly from the meeting. They like the arrangement where the town is handling it, but they do know, they've been sending me pictures of all the violations, all the issues where the drivers are seeing on the street. And believe me, they get to a stop, you know how difficult it is to say, okay, we're only taking these 2, and they're leaving these 4 there. It's tough for guys that pick up this stuff, they know what they're doing, they're
Or
professionals.
the bulk stuff is out
Yeah.
the months it should.
And that's the other thing, so by the contract, they're allowed 1 bulk item at a certain time of the month, on a Thursday, or whatever it is, and that's it. Well, if you put out 3 items, the 2 are hanging out on the lawn for the next week or 2. And we've had situations in certain areas where for 3 weeks,
Hot water heater for 5 weeks.
so, and nobody knows why. So this really, we just can't keep kicking the can.
It's also the winter, they don't pick it up.
No, this
So-
was before, this was before early December, and it stayed out until after January, and it finally got picked up.
Okay, so we come to the part of the meeting where, council, you have anything?
No.
Anyone from the public wish to speak? Please come on up and do so. Please.
Hi,
Could you come up and give to the microphone and give your name to the clerk, please?
oh, sure, I just had a question.
Sure, yeah.
Michelle Schenker, Schenker. I've been trying to learn this, and I haven't been able to. Was there a lethal goose roundup in Monroe? And are you planning to do one this year?
We haven't spoken to the vendor that we have. We have the USDA that does our geese mitigation. However, they do it because, as you know, I'm sure you know the area, you know Crane Park? Are you familiar with the area? So we have to have, on average, anywhere between 200 to 300 geese. It's like, it's like a convention here annually. And I don't know the amount, you probably do, I bet you, how much poop they leave daily? No idea.
I was just, was there a lethal goose roundup?
I don't know what they employed, what things they did.
Who would know?
They would.
Was there a lethal goose roundup in
I will,
Monroe?
I will ask and I'll let you know.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
And do you know if they're doing one next year, or you don't know?
I don't know. We haven't even signed a contract with them.
Okay, who do you ask, or who should I ask, if not you, to find out?
No, you ask me and I'm gonna ask the vendor. And the vendor's gonna tell me what procedures he did and then I'll be happy to tell you what we did.
Okay, do you want me to leave my information, or you can?
Do we have, yeah, please, give it to the clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the public wish to speak, please?
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Doreen Fragan.
I'm sorry, Doreen?
I'm with the Animal Protection League of New Jersey, we both are, and we're here to talk about the geese. We have a lot of non-lethal solutions to help you with any of your geese concerns. We work with an ecological landscape designer on habitat modification, which, as everyone knows, is the #1 solution to permanently deter the geese out of the area. She does riparian buffers and meadows, plus there's a whole bunch of other things, flight turf, robin radar, sonic net. I did leave a packet of information. Oh, you have it?
Thank you.
And there's like so many different things. We want to help, we really do. We want to come out, we want to do a site visit. We'll bring Nancy, she's our ecological landscape designer. We'll look at the area, you can tell us your concerns, and this way you don't have to do any kind of lethal roundups. Habitat modification, like I said, is the #1 solution. She does wonderful work. She does HOAs, she does municipalities. She works out of PA, but she also works for us.
Are they listed here, by the way?
I'm sorry?
Are the municipalities that you work with, they listed in this binder?
Yes, everything's in there.
Okay.
And like I said, we have, I put like the links of different information there. We've done Passaic Valley Water Commission, so we have worked with water commissions. We've done the reservoir in New Jersey,
The Montague?
in all the way up in northern New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
No, in New Jersey. But we can help, so that's why I'm here to, offer our services. And we don't get paid for anything. We're a charity organization, and we just research different things to, of course, help the towns and, of course, help the geese so that they're not killed.
Sure. So I have a question, if you could help me answer. So we have a major problem. It's absolutely, in my opinion, it's absolutely disgusting. And we're very proactive on what we do out there on Crane Park. So from the airplane park for children out to the North Plain Field, through the concert area to the South Pond and so forth, it's just geese. I mean, there's more geese showing than there's blades of grass. And they leave behind, as you know what they leave, right? So last year, what really defined it for me was this past year where we had a concert. And people who came out, we get like 400, 500, 600 people. They came out, and as they walked onto the lawn, it was almost like as if they were thumbing their nose at me, the geese. They came like threefold of what they normally were there, and they just blanketed the whole area. People didn't want to go to the concert. Now, your argument could be, well, you know, listen, I mean, it is an expense to the village, but here we are trying to bring vitality, growth, goodwill, everything, right, that goes behind it to the downtown, and people don't want to participate. Now, we get probably on average maybe anywhere between 2,000 to 5,000, sometimes more people a day, depending on the weather, that walk around, that we call the bike path around the trails on North and South Pond. And it's like doing hopscotch around the bird poop. Nobody wants to step in it, and I don't blame them, you know? So it's all over. It's prolific, to be frank with you, and it's disturbing. Parents tell us, why don't you clean this mess up? I don't want my kids on the lawn. If people come out, they spread out blankets, they want to be able to have a nice day, because you could do that literally out there, it's beautiful. But with the poop out there, nobody wants to be out there. It's like, you remember in the movie Jaws, when they were saying there wasn't a shark in the water, and then they all ran out? You know, and that's an issue. So for us, that's the major problem. Now, if your work can support a program that eliminates all my geese, doors open, come on in.
Well, you know, you have to be a little tolerant during the molt period. That's when the geese lose their flight feathers. They're grounded, they cannot fly. And that usually happens, I would say they start to lose their feathers maybe the end of May into June and July. And then they start to grow them back at the end of July, August. That's when the USDA usually comes in, mid-June to July, round up the geese, put them in a gas chamber and gas them to death, which is really cruel and inhumane when there's so many other non-lethal solutions that would work. So we just ask the town, sometimes what happens, the migratory birds might see like a group of geese, and they also end up down, and they'll stay during that molt period. And what happens, those are the ones that we need to get back up in the flyway. And when the USDA comes in, they don't care who they gather up, and they'll gather up migratory birds as well. And that's why the geese have lost their way. They don't know how to get back up into the flyway because they don't have those leaders anymore to do that. So we usually ask the towns just to be a little tolerant during that period. It's like maybe a 6-week period when they can't fly, so they can't escape. They have nowhere to go. But in the meantime, what needs to happen, first of all, you have to see if people are feeding the geese. That's what we found out, that people feed the geese. And that's why geese congregate, and that's why they come back. Even though people will tell you that they don't feed them, they do. And Edgewater was a perfect example. They were feeding the geese like crazy down there. What they did was they put in an ordinance, and they also put a fine, a dollar figure with that, a $2,000 figure to stop feeding the geese. They put signage all over the place, and that stopped immediately because people didn't want to pay the $2,000 fine. They had volunteers that would patrol the walkways to make sure that people weren't feeding. And then also the police got involved, and they also didn't, made sure that they weren't feeding. But that was the #1 problem. Once that was eliminated, it cut down immensely. And the other problem that we found out is the grass. If the geese have a welcome mat, with the parks are welcome mats. They can see that there's no kind of predators, there's no kind of trees or meadows to block their line of sight, and then that's why they would go right down there and start eating the grass. Flight turf is a wonderful grass. I mean, we have even offered municipalities that we would come in and overseed the grass. We would pay for the grass, we would come in and overseed it, and it has like little jagged edges on it, and the geese will not touch it because they're afraid, first of all, they don't like the taste, and second of all, it will hurt them.
How does that affect the person?
It doesn't affect the person, it's all
Children,
organic.
no problem?
They're
No
not going to
problem.
be pinched or anything?
Nothing, it's all for the geese. It's like, and I have all that information in there, and the John, who is the creator of Flight Turf, we have had numerous Zoom calls with him. We can even set up a Zoom call for you. But I know that once people do change their grass, because they love, that grass is like, a buffet to them, and they love that grass. But once you change the grass, that's another thing that will move the geese along.
Is it green?
It's green. You would never notice it, but it just has like little edges on it.
Is it hardy? Does it grow?
It grows.
Is it drought tolerant?
It's tolerant, you only have to mow it like once a year. Yeah, drought tolerant, I mean, it's a really good grass, and it's a great way to deter the geese,
Light turf.
light turf.
So I could look that up, or it's in here, actually?
It's in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, like I said, the geese see this big welcome mat. You have a water body, you have a big welcome mat of grease, of grass, so they're gonna come there, and that's gonna be, tempting for them, and that
Sure.
will never get rid of them.
And you mentioned, I heard you say sonar.
Yeah, there's a company called SonicNet. That's also in the packet. They do, like broadcast systems. They install lasers. They install different kind of like, a hawk system. These are other things that deter the geese.
Is that
I know.
is that to haze them? Haze, is
Well,
that?
they also do that. They have sprays, if, you're having some kind of a, I don't know, like a concert or whatever, they'll spray the whole area, and that spray will last about a month, maybe 2 months, and you won't have to reapply it, even if it does rain. So, if you're doing some kind of concert and you don't want the geese around, you just have to have them come out and spray it. It's
And
like a
that's here
misting.
too?
That's in there too.
And we can apply it as a herbicide, or whatever it
it's
is?
It's perfectly safe.
It's a grape juice or something, isn't it? Isn't it like a
I'm
grape?
not- It's a little bit of a grape extract, but I also have the data sheet in there, because it's perfectly safe, it's all organic. It doesn't hurt the people, it doesn't hurt the geese.
This is exciting, good.
We
Let me
use
read this. We're
that,
done.
I use that grape juice stuff, I use that on ball fields.
More information than these two ladies just did?
I did not know what they had in there.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
There's something called a tow and collect.
What is it?
It's called a tow and collect.
Tow and collect.
You can put it on the back of whatever they're using to mow the lawn, if they're using one of those ATV
It's got the
things,
broom, it
whatever
cleans
they're
the
called.
You talk about sweeping up the poop?
It sweeps up the poop.
We do it. We do it now.
We do it now.
Okay.
We do
We
it.
just can't keep up with it.
There's a company that'll come in and do that for you.
At a price.
Duty calls, yes.
Yeah.
Duty calls.
Everything's,
Listen, we
everything
have
is at
we
a
have
cost.
we have an amazing DPW, and they work really hard, and it's so frustrating. We actually sweep the lawn. We sweep the paths. We wash the paths. Because, listen, small downtowns, Americana, I get the whole piece for you folks, believe me, I do. And if this takes care of my issue,
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
I'm in.
I think the best thing, though, for us to come out and do a site visit. We'll
Come on out.
bring Nancy.
What do you need from me?
Well, we'd like to set it up with, someone who's.
It's done.
willing to be there.
Tell Kim when you want to come.
And, I have to get Nancy, and you could take us, somebody could take us around your areas.
I'll
That's the
take you
best
around.
thing.
You want by helicopter or just by car?
Drone,
I'll take you around,
grab you and just
and
drone
I'll show you
around.
I'll show you our
There are
plans.
drones, too, that you can use to deter the geese as well.
And we have plans, right?
I'll show you our plans for the park.
Okay.
It's all being renovated, so
It's all being
it may
changed.
tie in very nicely with this.
That's what you need to do, though. You need to change, like, they did that in Edgewater. They changed the landscape of their park. They had this beautiful Veterans Park. They put in all different kind of grass. They put in the flight turf. They put in, like, walkways. They put in trees. They put in meadows. When that starts happening, and it looks beautiful, too, not just like a flat piece of grass, the geese think those are predators. So they'll be afraid to come down because it's not a clear line. If you give them a clear line of sight, that's what brings them
What about
in.
the
Whole
body of
Crane
water?
Park.
Well, that's what the riparian buffers are for. You create that buffer, and then they're afraid to go through that because they think there's a predator in there. And if you can do like sections at a time, and once those meadows go up, they'll be afraid to come through there.
So, we're gonna get the information. Do you have a contact in Edgewater?
It's in there.
In Edgewater? Okay. Good.
But what I will do is, because Tom, he's very great, I'm gonna give you his personal information, that, I'll give that to you.
Well, I don't know if
and
that's
then you can
appropriate. Is
reach
that
out to
appropriate?
him.
Is that appropriate?
I have to ask him first.
Okay.
That's what I usually
like
do
it.
when I go to meetings, and because Edgewater has done such great work there, I mean, it's incredible.
Good.
They had, I don't know, how many, they had hundreds of geese, hundreds. And they're right on the Hudson. So they had, a really big geese problem.
Well, this week here, we've had probably, right now, as we speak, there's probably 200 out there. So you well,
They had a lot more than that at one time.
oh, we did too.
In the middle of the summer, where
This dead of winter, they're here.
And they lost
Yeah.
their way. They don't know how to go back
My father used to say that, yeah,
They've
need a
lost
little
their way.
straightening out.
You got the white swans too now.
And you have to find out about the feeding though, because geese hang around because they're being fed. We found that out in Edgewater.
I agree with you, I know there are people out there, they are
And
feeding
if
them.
they're feeding them, and then that's another thing, when they feed them bread, which most of the people do, that creates angel wings. That's a deformity. Once that happens, the geese cannot fly. It's like their arm is bent out and it's deformed, and they will be a resident geese forever.
And that's in here too. So we can even do public service announcements on our website, right?
Oh, yeah, education is key
It's
for
key.
these people. Hand out flyers, put up signage. Signage is so important. We put up some signage in Greenwood Lake, because they were having a problem. We did a beautiful, sign, for the swans over at the marina.
Yeah,
And then we also put in, like, don't feed the geese. I think I sent you the signs, right?
I don't think I have the signs, but I don't.
Oh, I've seen them signs.
We did some,
well, that'd be great, let's get into this, let's get a meeting set up,
okay,
let's move forward.
okay.
Good, because it's February,
Yeah, this is the time to do
it's the
it.
time to do it. Thank you all so much for
Thank
coming, I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you
Have a
very
great
much.
night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I got.
Should I call you, like, for a meeting or something?
Email me, we'll go back and forth.
Okay.
Anybody would like to speak to Ron, an executive, before we close it up, or you want
In
to?
executive or now?
No, executive, well, you can come out now, he's talked about the garbage.
Want me to
We're
shut
live.
it down?
So I just need a motion to go into executive session.
Berenger will make the motion.
Carl, second.
Call the question?
Berenger, aye.
Ferraro, I.
Carla,
O'Connor, aye.
All right. Thank you, good night, everyone.
thank you.